There were several massive tectonic news stories in the tech world today that affect Tesla. Before that, first, we'll start off with venture capitalist David Sachs, who estimates that AI will be 100 times more powerful in just 4 years from now. This is not just exponential, but double exponential. We'll discuss what this means and what to expect. Second, Elon Musk has apparently started 3 new companies. Yes, 3 companies. We don't yet know what they're for, but they're called Red Ventures 1, Red Ventures 2, and Red Ventures 3, kind of hinting at something to do with Mars. Third, in a very big move, OpenAI has abandoned its plans to convert to a for-profit company. Wondering if Elon is dancing with joy right now. Was this a strategic move, or more likely Elon's attempt to stop the conversion work? What might this mean for the future of AGI, and how will Grok help Tesla as it rockets to the biggest AI company in the world? Get to have this conversation and discussion here with Hans Nelson. Welcome, Hans.
Thanks for having me, Herbert. This is an interesting set of topics today.
Yeah, perfect with you. You've been keeping us abreast of what's going on with AI, AGI, Grok. And this is a few stories that are really coming together to tell you that exponential growth, it's happening. Let's start off with David Sachs, a well-known venture capitalist. He wanted to point out, and I think he did a fantastic job, and we'll watch his clip here, where he said that AI, it's not just growing exponentially. It's going to be 100 times more powerful in 4 years, 100 times more powerful in 4 years. He explains that the algorithms, the chips, and the data centers, each of them are all improving at a rate of 3 to 4 times a year. So that's 10 times every 2 years. Where people don't understand exponential progress is that if you're getting better 10 times every 2 years, that doesn't mean you'll be at 20 times in 4 years. It means you'll be at 100 times. Let's listen to what he said.
My point is just look, the algorithms, the chips, and the data centers are all improving or scaling at a rate of, 3 to 4x a year. That's 10x every 2 years, okay? Where people don't understand exponential progress is that if you're getting better at 10x every 2 years, that doesn't mean you'll be at 20x in 4 years. It means you'll be at 100x. So the models, the chips, and the data centers will all be 100 times more powerful in 4 years. Let's say at the end of this presidential term. So you multiply those things together, the algorithms, the chips, and then the raw compute that's available, you're talking about a million-x increase, some of which will be captured in price reductions, some of it will be in the performance ceiling, and then some of it will just be in the overall amount of AI compute that's available to the economy. But the impact of this thing is going to be absolutely massive. And I think people still don't even appreciate that fact because they don't understand exponential progress.
Yeah, I think maybe just to square the circle, because everything is that you just said, Tax, is what I think is propelling the industry. And then the reality on Chamath's side, like just to connect the dots. So we have an eval test that we do where we run enterprise data through every model to kind of figure out its accuracy rate and how much. It's not even hallucination, but just literally how much data does it miss when we ask for facts. The best model in the world, actually, interestingly, we was Grok 3 on this particular test. We send it 500 documents, and we ask for 40 data fields back from the documents. And so it has to get every single data field correct. And we only do a single pass. So we send the document to the model. We get a single pass back. Right now, the best score is about 90%. And so you can imagine a number of industries where you can't have 90% accuracy. If you give something, a question on 40 data fields. Now, there's ways to solve it. Is you rerun it multiple times, or you chunk up the document into smaller parts, and so it doesn't get confused by the large context window. But a lot of the people that were deploying AI a year ago or a year and a half ago weren't doing that, and so they did have a kind of a pilot run of something, and it kind of worked okay. And what they have to realize, back to your point, Sachs, is like this space is literally exponentially, changing. And so if you don't use the latest methods of, okay, you have to actually run the data through the model multiple times, and you have to chunk up the data into smaller parts, and you have to use a reasoning model, and you have to make sure that your prompt is hyper-tuned for the particular use case. If you haven't done those 4 things, then you probably will actually end up with a project that fails. And even so, even when you do all those things for even, harder problems, you're still going to run into issues. So I think the challenge is that everybody's running a million miles an hour right now. And they're trying a lot of things. Some work, some don't work. At the same time that the space is actually, changing at a pretty, kind of crazy rate.
Yeah. So let's get back to what David Sachs was saying.
Yeah, that was the CEO of Box for anyone who doesn't know. So he is working on this. But yeah, to your point on David Sachs, which I'm assuming everyone in the audience knows who David Sachs is, but just briefly, PayPal Mafia member, was the COO at PayPal, and part of the group that led the revolt against Elon that got him kicked out of the company, but they have since repaired their relationship. Also a longtime investor in, he has a venture capital fund that focuses entirely on SaaS, so software as a service companies, for really decades now. And so very, very deeply embedded in that space. And now he is the AI and crypto czar within the Trump administration. And so he has a lot of industry inside knowledge, a lot of experience with how all of this stuff is playing out, not only from a technology side, but how the underlying technological developments then drive businesses and monetization. And now he's in charge of policy. So very powerful, influential, and deeply knowledgeable person in this area. And what he said is something that it's very easy to forget, that when you have these multiple different technologies that are all improving at exponential rates, and then those exponentials are converging together and compounding together and multiplying one another, then you really do get just insane levels of progress in insanely short periods of time. And the reason he's talking about a 4-year time frame is because that's really the time frame in which the Trump administration has to think about how they're going to set policy for where the technology is going to be at the end of the Trump term. And the, a million times increase in AI capabilities that we're talking about having the potential of in 4 years is just an astounding increase in capabilities. And there's a lot of hard infrastructure that has to be put in place to really be able to maximize the effectiveness of that technology in solving real world problems for real world humans at high reliability rates. But we're doing all of that hard work right now. And we're continuing to not only develop new strategies, but our tools for integrating that end up getting better and better. And I think this is really, one of the reasons why people are so excited about the potential, not only for things like agents inside of businesses that are running purely in the cloud or in the digital realm, but also the potential for robotics and AI empowered robotics in the coming 5 to 10 years as well, because we're going to have so much of this AI power like just at our fingertips in order to be able to do a lot of this work. And that can drive a massive growth in the economy. It can drive massive growth in productivity. It's also going to drive massive new problems that we've never had to deal with before that we're also going to have to solve at the same time. So it's a very fascinating time to be alive. And I definitely don't envy David's position of having to figure out what the US government's policy needs to be in order to guide this in a hopefully positive direction for everyone.
Yeah, but I'm glad that there are people who understands AI, who understands technology, who understands what matters. They need to start advising the government. So 100 times performance improvement, because everything's
and that's on
improving.
each of those axes. 100 times improvement in algorithms, 100
Right.
times improvement in the compute.
Data centers, compute.
Yeah. And
yeah.
So, and then when you multiply the 3 100s together, that's where he talks about a million.
Oh, so it's actually a million, because this is, you can't understand this. It's one of those things just too big to understand. What does it mean to how AI, you're really going to head towards AGI? What does that mean to not only AI, but robots, and of course, Tesla and Elon companies? We're going to get back talking about OpenAI. We're going to talk about Grok. He talked about how Grok 3 from Elon's company XAI is already the best today, and they've got the massive lead in data centers and compute because they can implement them faster. So they are not only the head today, but they're going to just accelerate to be better than everyone else. Good news for Tesla investors. But I kind of arranged my stories a little bit correctly today. Sorry, but we're going to take a little detour. We're going to talk about Red Ventures first. Elon's created 3 new companies. Then we'll come back and talk about AI and OpenAI and Grok again. So this is kind of interesting, right? There's discovery that Elon has created 3 new companies. He called them Red Ventures 1, Red Ventures 2, and Red Ventures 3. This guy has been Elon's right-hand man. His name is Jared Birchall. He's the acting CEO of Neuralink right now, and he's also the CEO of Elon's family office. Well, he formed in February 3 new limited liability companies, Red Planet 1. Oh, I thought it was Red Ventures. They're called Red Planet Ventures 1, 2, and 3. Oh, I made a mistake. Red Planet Ventures 1 and Red Planet Ventures 2 and 3. They're registered with the Texas Secretary of State. List Birchall as manager and based in Austin. We don't know what the purpose of these 3 companies are. One can assume it has something to do with Mars because it's called Red Planet. Not a lot of info, but it's very interesting to say the least. What's your thinking about what this is about, Hans?
Well, yeah, the Mars connection is very obvious, and I think the timeline also fits when you think about we've got the transfer orbit opening coming up here in a couple of years that Elon has talked about wanting to hopefully land the first Starship if they can continue to make progress there and get this thing fully operational and ready for that transfer orbit that's coming up. If not, they'll have to wait another 2 years. But assuming that they want to do that, well, Starship is going to have to take something with it, and whatever it takes with it is going to be part of hopefully establishing some sort of resources there on the surface of Mars. And it would make at least a certain amount of sense for him to have another company that is responsible for whatever that cargo is, and that he can separate those companies from a fundraising perspective, from a personnel perspective, and from a focus perspective. That maybe that's not a team that lives inside of SpaceX that's responsible for all of the settlement part of Mars, that SpaceX is just doing the transportation to and from the surface, and then cargo and operations on all of that then become something else. And so you can imagine one of these Red Planet Ventures companies being the company that then purchases Optimus robots from Tesla and then owns and operates them there once they reach the surface of Mars. Is that what this is? We definitely don't know at this point. It's definitely speculation. It could just be that Elon has some assets that he needs to put under the umbrella of one of these. Were they LLCs, or what was the structure?
Yep. LLCs.
Yeah, one of these LLCs, and then he likes Mars, and so the name is Red Planet Ventures, and so it's just kind of a holding container. It could also be that, but knowing Elon, I would say that's probably less likely. It's probably more to do with some sort of a business that is aimed at specifically what happens when we finally set foot on the surface of Mars.
Red Planet Ventures. So first of all, I think comment here is that Elon's going to be creating many, many, many more companies. They're all going to be many, many more companies. So people,
we were just talking about this too the other day, that he's due for starting some new companies.
Yeah,
here,
we said last week, didn't we?
That's
That's right, we did, didn't we? That he did this in February. Right, we were making the bets that they were going to be a brand new company very, very soon. And Tesla's also going to create their own new business that they're going to enter into, by the way, within Tesla. And then all of these guys connect together. So I do think you're right. You got SpaceX, you have Tesla, but his goal is to go to Mars. He needs Red Planet Ventures 1, 2, and 3, just structures to get going, but there'll be ones. So I asked Grok what this...
So you can think about, there's 3 different things that we have a high confidence that they're going to have to do pretty much immediately. They're going to have to operate a Starlink network there relatively quickly. They're going to have Boring Company machinery operating to do some tunneling. And then obviously there's going to be Optimus.
The bots.
And maybe you want to separate each one of those is in a different Red Ventures company.
Yeah, Red Planet Ventures. No, I think when you pointed out that somebody has to buy the bots, I always assumed it was going to be SpaceX, because that is its mission to go to Mars. But right, SpaceX is a business. They launched Starlink. Maybe they're going to launch Red Planet Ventures 1. That's the one that's going to buy the bots. And then that becomes a business within itself, and then whatever. Or I just asked Grok what it thinks, and it said, well, there's several options, right? Because it doesn't know, but one is investment vehicles. So these could be investment vehicles. These are where you raise money to create a company out of it. So just like the other companies. And so the idea of it being 1, 2, and 3 is in line with kind of this investment holding companies. Another option is asset protection privacy. Maybe,
And-
like you said, nothing to do with Mars. Not it just likes the name Red Planet, right? Just come up with new names, and they're there just to protect, assets and personal liabilities. Just companies. Sometimes you create LLCs for various reasons, and then funding or partnerships with new projects. Real estate or infrastructure development. That's interesting, right? Hey, who's going to own the land at Mars? Red Planet what? Red Planet Venture what? Could own land for new SpaceX facility, for employee housing, and for research campus. You see? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, weren't there several different X holding companies too? There's like an X Holdings 1
Right.
and X Holdings 2, X Holdings 3. So, I mean, this isn't the first time he's deployed this type of a structure preemptively as he's getting ready to do something. And, you just spin up a couple of different ones, and either you figure out how you're going to use them or you kind of have a plan ahead of time. So we're moving into exciting new territory.
So while Elon continues to make new for-profit companies, OpenAI has to abandon their thought. They initially thought that they were going to create for-profit companies. Now they cannot. So that's the latest news that just came out now. Here we go. OpenAI abandons plan for for-profit conversion. And it's hard to know why. It's obviously Elon was fighting them on court. And as they said, it made the decision to scrap the Boulder conversion plan from a nonprofit, right? They're called OpenAI, and they were initially supposed to be a nonprofit, to a for-profit because there are discussions with civic leaders and the attorney generals of California and Delaware. So I guess they're not allowed to. It will instead transform its for-profit subsidiary into a public benefit corporation that is controlled by the nonprofit parent. I think it just sets us up to be a more understandable structure. This may be less eventful than people were expecting. When it became clear that it was going to need more money than its founders thought, OpenAI created a limited liability company subsidiary that would allow it to take investment from big tech companies like Microsoft. These investors' returns would be capped at 100 times what they put in, could fall zero if the nonprofit board deems it was necessary to support its mission. In a new structure proposed Monday, the capped profit LLC would be replaced by a public benefit corporation. So, yeah, so this is what happened. OpenAI made this announcement. OpenAI will continue to be controlled by the current nonprofit. Our existing for-profit will become a public benefit corporation. Nonprofit will control and be a significant owner of the public benefit corporation. Can you have the same mission? Do you think this has anything to do with Elon?
Well, I'm sure that it has something to do with the at least laying out of what the legal case is or the legal justification would be for why this should not be allowed. Elon made arguments that if something like this were allowed, that lots of companies in the future would take this approach where they would just start up these nonprofit organizations to raise a whole bunch of money that wasn't taxed. And then at some point in the future, you convert that into a for-profit company if it's successful. And then it, shields the startup from any potential tax ramifications, allows you to make a lot of extra money. And so I didn't follow that whole set of arguments closely enough to know if it really holds water or not. But I'm sure that there are a lot of lawyers who kind of looked at everything back and forth. And so it sounds like not only does OpenAI's counsel, did they evaluate those arguments, but they had some conversations then with the attorney generals involved. So both California and Delaware. And it seems like the consensus legally was that their plans just didn't work and opened them up to more liability than it had benefit for. So that, I guess, is something that makes sense. It's really, OpenAI is in a tough spot because their organizational structure is a huge mess. and it always has been. And it was because they wanted to go with this nonprofit organization structure to begin with. And whether that was out of good motivations or cynical motivations, it's hard to say. But to me, what it seems like is that the hangover of that messy organizational structure is still going to persist. We've already seen that kind of blow up once and cause a lot of drama. And hopefully this doesn't continue to add to the challenges that OpenAI has. And that's just on their own the internal state of affairs. There's also lots of external threats that they have to deal with as well. So I think my big takeaway from all of this is just that OpenAI still has lots and lots of problems, but on the flip side of that equation, they still also have some of the best frontier AI research out there, and so they have some strengths and they definitely have some weaknesses. And I think the fact that they have weaknesses doesn't necessarily eliminate the strengths that they have, and the strengths that they have doesn't necessarily eliminate the weaknesses that they have.
Yeah, I'm less confident about OpenAI's future. I do think that what they have is a commodity. They had
once we get to the Grok conversation, that's where things start to get really interesting.
They used to have a lead. They used to have something they could charge consumers for. They used to have something that Microsoft would find valuable. Now you can basically buy and use anybody else's tools. I just can't see at this point. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so one of the things is we don't know, because they are so closed in the very entertaining and ironic version of the timeline that we live in. We don't really know what the state of the tools that they have internally is. And the other argument that, or the benefit that they have that is really inarguable is they have the lion's share of mind share for consumers when it comes to AI.
They got
they have the best brand, the best network effects when it comes to distribution on an AI product as well. Everyone else is kind of struggling to catch up. Now there are other players that do have their own built-in distribution to where they can hopefully
Grok
have
through
the
X.
ability. Grok through X, obviously Meta through Facebook, through Instagram, through WhatsApp, through all of their different products. Microsoft has obviously huge distribution that right now they're mostly allocated
on who Apple's
to
partners
OpenAI.
with.
Well,
partner. If Apple picks the winner, they can really pick a winner. Okay, so just number one, don't screw with Elon. Don't screw with Elon. He will come after you. He's Matthew Berman. I had him on the show before. He's got a YouTube channel. He explains AI really, really well.
Yeah, so he's got an excellent AI YouTube channel.
I love his channel. After months and months of trying, OpenAI will abandon plans to convert to a nonprofit. I bet Elon is jumping for joy right now. Absolutely. Do not mess with him.
A little bit of a typo there. Plans to convert to a for-profit.
Right. For-profit. He corrected it later. Convert to a for-profit. This is OpenAI's board, by the way. You got Brett Taylor, who's the former co-CEO of Salesforce, created Google Maps. Adam D'Angelo, CEO of Quora, CTO of Facebook. You got Dr. Sue Desmond-Hellman, CEO of the Gates Foundation. You got Zico Coulter, CMU. Paul Nakasone, retired U.S. Army general. Here you go. Sony, Instacart.
A bunch of people who don't look like they... I mean, there's definitely some technical people, but a lot of these
this guy's the only one.
Board members don't seem like they have an idea of what's going on here.
Okay, let's move on. So Elon posted this. He said this last week. He said, next week, Grok 3.5 early beta release to Super Grok subscribers only. It's the first AI that can, for example, accurately answer technical questions about rocket engines or electrochemistry. Grok is reasoning from first principles and coming up with answers that simply don't exist on the internet. So this is saying that Grok 3.5 is about to come. And then this guy says this is an early checkpoint. Grok is going to get better and better until it blows right on by superintelligence. Grok 3.5, I'll pull you close to my bosom and you shine forth. Light of thousand minds. And then this is the latest
Yeah, he was
test.
able to get early access to Grok 3.5 and do some testing with it. And yeah, these are the results that he is posting for that. So
O3 is ChatGPT, right? Gemini. And so you've got better, 95% better than these other guys at this point.
yep. Yeah, and you can see where Grok, one of the big things is even just the improvement over Grok 3. So you see 84.2 on AMI
Right. That's a leap.
24 and
Mhm.
then 95.6 on AMI 24 for Grok 3.5. So huge, that's like a 10% leap there. You see more than 10% on the AMI 25. I believe those are both math tests. And yeah, just outstanding performance across the board. It looks like it is better on all the metrics than ChatGPT's O3. We don't know. So, obviously OpenAI, they have the full O4 model internally. They have only released O4 Mini to people outside. And then, of course, that O4 Mini is not going to be as powerful as the full O4 version that they have internally. But my guess is that these numbers for Grok 3.5 are probably right in the ballpark of what the OpenAI O4 model is going to be able to perform at. And so for Elon to basically be catching up with their really edge frontier model, and if he starts releasing this to the public here within, he said a week, and that was a week ago, so it could be any day now. Then I think that would firmly put them at least neck and neck, if not ahead of OpenAI on frontier model and frontier model quality. The other piece of data that we got from David Sachs in that All In podcast this week was that the Colossus cluster in Memphis is up to 300,000 GPUs, I think H100 equivalent GPUs right now, on their way to the full million. And yeah, that level of compute is just a significantly larger cluster than anyone else has access to. And it is that cluster, this is the the fundamental things that David was pointing to earlier. The algorithms are getting better. We're growing the size of the compute that we have. We're also getting better quality compute. This Colossus cluster that Elon is having XAI build right now is pretty much the premier example of that in the world. And it looks like it's translating directly into the quality of the product. Obviously, we'll have to do our own testing with Grok 3.5 once it comes out, and people are going to test it in a whole variety of use cases. But if Elon has actually been able to achieve, and this is really what his aim with XAI has been from the beginning, is for it to be able to do first principles reasoning and to be able to make progress on scientific questions where it does have to verify its outputs. And maybe in a field where it's not as easy to do in something like code, where you can test and see if it compiles, does it run, does it function, does it do the things that you asked it to do. Doing that type of reasoning, but in a field that's more, like he said, electrochemistry or rocket engineering, that really is a powerful, powerful piece of technology that can then be used to accelerate progress on a whole number of other topics. And so, Elon has a huge and important company that's pointed at this huge and important problem. That's kind of what he, likes to do. And for them to be making progress at this rate, they started years and years after OpenAI. If they can catch up and be neck and neck today with where OpenAI is, after starting such a short time ago, and then having not only their progress but the resources that they have access to growing at a much faster rate than OpenAI does, then
that's the
that
point.
makes it almost impossible for OpenAI to continue to compete, to continue to be the premier research AI company that is at the edge of the frontier. And if XAI passes them, there's not going to be any possibility for them to then catch back up afterwards.
Yeah, when you said that resources that I wasn't just referring to compute and data center and talent. Like you said, because they're so fast in building these massive data computers, but also they have the data, right? So Grok has access to X. They just bought X, so they've merged those two companies together. They got real world data. Now Tesla's using Grok, not only for the bots. So as a Tesla investor, I'm so happy, right? I wish I owned XAI. I really do. But at least we have a partnership with XAI to have the best, smartest AI to our advantage. See, here's the thing. It's not just the cars, right? That's going to be amazing what you can do with the cars with having Grok there. Not just the bots. That's so critical. The bots have to have the brains, but also the factories. It's going to help Tesla build their businesses better if you have Grok. And then that's my point about the data. All that data that's coming from Tesla factories, Tesla businesses that they feed into Grok to teach it, to learn. What other LLM company has access to that? Maybe you might say Microsoft has it so that Microsoft can feed it theirs. But, just Tesla can send them all their data and then it learns physics, factories, business. And it's going to help Tesla as a company become a better business in many, many ways. I know that they're already using it for customer service help. So you would, use Grok instead of the other LLMs.
Yeah, and remember that Tesla has built all of their software to run the entire company in-house. And so they have not only their own custom software that they can modify at will as they please, but they have the team that knows how that software was built and
to help the business.
Can be very, efficient at then plugging in different AI resources in different places to continue to drive additional productivity and efficiency within the business units.
I like this post from Tesla Roddy. He said that it's crazy to think Tesla could be the world's biggest automaker, the biggest robotics company, the biggest AI company now, I guess that's in partnership with XAI, and the biggest sustainable energy company all at the same time. I like that. It's true.
We've got a lot of work to do. As Elon says, there's a lot of execution between here and there, but that company is the kind of company that is worth multiples of any other next biggest company, potentially as big as the next 5 companies combined.
Okay. Don't screw with Elon. He doesn't want you to turn into for a profit. He'll stop you. He's very smart how he's going to do that. He's creating brand new companies, brand new technologies. And now, out of the blue, who knew? Grok is now the #1 AI leader today. Now they can switch. We'll see. We'll follow it. But I think the signs show that it's hard for others to catch up.
Yeah, and we'll within 6 months. I think the pre-release of Grok 3 was in November of last year. That's when we first started to hear these types of rumors. And so now we're in May. So to have Grok 3.5, it's kind of looks like it's on pace. We've got a lot of extra GPUs that have been churning away. So I think all of the first principles metrics have been moving in the right direction for this to be an incredible new release. And I can't wait to get my hands on it and try it for myself.
I want to try it for myself in the car. I can't wait till my Tesla has Grok. And I'm not just talking about talking to it, asking questions, giving me answers. I want it to control the car, of course, just be a lot more intelligent, very useful features. And then, of course, the bot. So that's coming very, very soon. Thank you, Hans. Follow Hans on his YouTube channel and his X account, Hans C. Nelson. Thanks, everybody. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.